They were having trouble finding a bank that was willing to loan them money. Translation, their loan request was denied, rejected.
Did you hear the news about the Chicago Sky being denied a $38 million bank loan? The banks basically looked at Angel Reese and decided she wasn't a worthwhile investment. It's shocking and really highlights what these financial institutions think about one of the WNBA's biggest stars on social media. But here's where things get even more surprising. Forbes just released an article suggesting that Angel Reese, not Caitlin Clark, is the main reason behind the WNBA's recent growth. Seriously? Let's break down why the banks aren't convinced by what the Sky and Forbes are promoting and what this could mean for a franchise that's currently holding practices at a YMCA.
I received some information from a viewer on Twitter. Last summer, the Chicago Bravado proudly announced plans to build a state-of-the-art practice facility. As you guys know, due to severe financial constraints, or as normal people would call it, being broke, WNBA teams usually practice at the local YMCA where they share half the court with prepubescent boys.
That's right. The Chicago Sky, a professional WNBA team, is actually holding their practices at local YMCAs. And no, this isn't a short-term fix while a new facility is being built. This is their daily reality. Just take a moment to think about that. These are elite athletes competing at the highest level of women's basketball, yet they don't even have a stable, dedicated training facility.
If the local LGBT is booked for the day, practices are often moved to the driveway of unsuspecting neighbors who aren't home because they're working.
The Chicago Sky, a professional WNBA team featuring high-profile talent like Angel Reese, is conducting practices in local YMCA facilities and high school gyms. Often, they have to share these spaces with community programs and kids' camps. In some cases, they even keep their training locations under wraps out of embarrassment. Picture elite athletes waiting for a youth league to finish before they can begin, or trying to prepare in gyms that lack locker rooms, recovery equipment, or even consistent court conditions. This isn't a short-term solution. It's their everyday reality, and it's putting them at a major disadvantage.
The Chicago Bravado were having a difficult time finding a consistent place to practice. And if you've ever seen the Chicago Bravado play pretend basketball, it is painfully obvious that practice isn't something that they do on a regular basis.
This kind of instability isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a clear reflection of deeper financial problems. On the surface, the Chicago Sky may appear to be a major market team making headlines, but behind the scenes, they're struggling just to secure a place to train. No NBA team would ever be expected to operate under these conditions, and even G League teams have more reliable setups. These athletes deserve proper, professional resources, not makeshift arrangements.
They were having difficulties finding places to practice. The Bravado decided that they would build a state-of-the-art practice facility. But there was just one problem, one tiny problem. The Chicago Bravado, they did not have the money to build the facility, but that's okay. That's okay. Since the WNBA is used to receiving sympathy money, since the WNBA believes they're entitled to money they haven't earned, they figured they could just go down to the sympathy bank and ask for a loan.
Faced with severely inadequate practice spaces, the team made what appeared to be a logical next step. They pursued a $38 million loan to fund a state-of-the-art training facility. This wasn't going to be just another gym. The vision was for a custom-built WNBA performance center covering over 40,000 square feet, designed exclusively for the team and its staff. It was an ambitious project, with plans to break ground this fall and complete construction by December 2025 in Bedford Park.
As in, they had the mock-ups for this huge, great facility without the money for the facility.
But then something unexpected happened. Something the mainstream sports media has mostly avoided. When the Chicago Sky presented their proposal to the banks, they were rejected, completely denied. Just think about that. These are institutions built around lending money. And after reviewing the Sky's plans, they essentially said, no thanks. This wasn't an ordinary rejection. It was a clear signal of how financial institutions perceive the true market value of the Chicago Sky and their headline player, Angel Reese.
Sympathy money, we have Angel Reese. She's a huge star. Dozens of people bought tickets last year to witness her mythical streak of double-doubles. We promise to pay you back within the next 200 or 300 years.
Imagine what those meetings must have looked like. The Sky's executives probably came in with polished presentations highlighting Angel Reese's massive social media following, her media exposure, and bold claims about her ability to draw in huge crowds. They likely assured the banks that with Reese on the roster, generating enough revenue to repay the $38 million loan would be no problem at all. But the banks didn't bite. To put in perspective, $38 million might seem like a big number to most people, but in professional sports, it's a relatively small investment. Some individual NBA players earn that amount in just 1 or 2 seasons.
A $38 million loan for a professional sports team, that should be approved without hesitation. And that's what the WNBA is, right? The WNBA is professional basketball, right?
The bank's decision to reject a $38 million loan for a professional team in the nation's third largest city says it all. It's a harsh reality check. From a purely financial standpoint, analysts looking at return on investment don't view Angel Reese as a strong enough asset to warrant that level of funding. Despite all the media attention and social buzz, the message from the financial world is clear. The hype isn't translating into actual, bankable revenue.
According to documentation from the village of Bedford Park, the Chicago Bravado, they were having trouble finding a bank that was willing to loan them money. Translation, their loan request was denied, rejected. So they went to the city council in Bedford Park, begging them to front the money for the facility. Not only did they want the taxpayers to front the money, they also wanted the loan to be interest-free.
After being turned down by the banks, the Chicago Sky approached the village of Bedford Park, requesting full, interest-free funding for their proposed facility. A meeting held on December 12th highlighted just how desperate the situation had become, with officials openly discussing the team's difficulties in securing traditional financing. When a professional franchise has to rely on a small village for support, it raises serious concerns. The original completion date has already been pushed back from October 2025 to April 2026, but even that revised timeline appears doubtful given the current financial hurdles.
The fact that they're saying possibly by the start of next season, it's not happening by April 2026. The fact they're like, well, it's just not by this date, maybe by this other date in the quite far future, but yeah, it looks like it's an almost certainty that, it's just not going to be there in the year of 2026.
What's most revealing in this whole situation is the stark contrast between Angel Reese's media portrayal and her actual financial impact. While the headlines might crown her as the driving force behind the WNBA's growth, banks, driven by hard data, not Instagram followers, clearly aren't buying into that narrative. They analyzed real metrics such as attendance, merchandise sales, and revenue forecasts, and found the Chicago Sky's projections to be lacking. In their view, the hype surrounding Reese didn't equate to a reliable return on a $38 million investment. This situation exposes a fundamental truth in professional sports. Social media buzz doesn't always translate into real revenue. Financial institutions don't care about likes. They care about dollars. The bank's refusal, combined with the Sky's sudden shift to seeking village funding, raises serious concerns. If Reese's star power were as financially solid as the media portrays, the team wouldn't be left scrambling for public funds. The numbers just don't add up to the narrative being sold.
I genuinely just think that they are just way too, we're way too ambitious on this. And look, I don't think long term it's going to really affect the Sky. The on the court stuff is mainly what's going to affect it.
What's particularly striking about this loan rejection is that it came at a time when many view women's basketball as being at a high point in terms of popularity. The WNBA has seen increased viewership and attention, yet the banks still didn't consider the Chicago Sky a safe investment. This suggests that, despite the buzz surrounding Angel Reese, Financial institutions don't believe the team will be able to capitalize enough on this surge in interest to justify a $38 million loan.
Social media impressions do not equate to popularity.
For context, it's important to note that the $38 million wasn't intended for a grand arena. It was just for a practice facility. Many college programs have training facilities that cost as much or even more. The fact that banks wouldn't fund this relatively modest project, especially by professional sports standards, speaks volumes about their assessment of the Chicago Sky's revenue potential.